I have my portal open, and the first thing you'll notice on my screen is a dashboard. It summarizes my number of encounters, the types of clients I'm serving, and turnout to group programs if you run those. So these are OHRS, Ontario Healthcare Reporting Standard compliant, and it just gives you a really quick summary of who you're seeing and how many encounters you have. So at the top for my 265 summary, you can see the numbers have increased quite a bit from 2015 to 2016 fiscal years, almost twice or three times as much. Most of the encounters are shaded kind of a pink color. In the top right on the legend, you can see that represents our general clinic team. There's a smaller sliver of orange, and that space represents community engagement. So the quick takeaway from this client service event summary is that we're seeing almost double as many clients this year as we did previous years, and the general clinic accounts for most of that. Looking down towards the bottom left, clients served, you can see most of the clients we've served are adults. About a third of them are elderly, and a small sliver is pediatric. And for our group turnout, you can see it was kind of stable, went slightly down from October to December, but more or less stable. So this is a really quick, easy way to summarize your OHRS submission. We also have, moving across the tabs at the top, a staff target to actual summary. In these graphs, the black lines represent the target, and the blue lines represent the actual. So looking at my 265, which is individual encounters, annual target to actual summary, you can see Florence Nightingale's blue bar is exceeding the black bar. She's ahead of target for her individual encounters. Norman Bethune is slightly below target. He's seen about 900. He's had about 900 encounters. His target is about 1,000. And in the community engagement team, Jane Adams is also quite a bit ahead. Her target, the black line, is around 200. Her actual is about 300 for the last year. So she's ahead of target. And looking at 266, which is group encounters, if your clinic runs those, you can see Florence Nightingale is well below target for her number of group activities. So this is a really quick, easy way to see which of your staff members is at their target and who is below their target. Scrolling across the tabs at the top, I can also get more detailed OHRS data that would be suitable for my submission. So if I look at client service events 265, I have my total by fiscal year, so 690 this year for community engagement and 4283 for general clinic. If I want to break that out and get a bit more detail, I can drill down on the functional center by clicking on this plus button, and then I get the results broken out by staff member rather than team. Likewise with date, I can break these fiscal years into quarters by clicking on the plus, and I can break the quarters into months by drilling down further. Our OHRS summary is only going to Q3 of fiscal year 15-16, so the end of December, and we'll do an upload some more data momentarily. It's worth pointing out in the bottom right, I do have an option to download this data. I can get it in a spreadsheet format if that's what I need to submit it. And again, looking across the top, I also have clients served. So here are results for OHRS statistical account 455. And again, we can drill down to see which staff members are contributing to this, and we can break it down from year to month. I have more than just OHRS in this BI tool. So for example, I can go to my smoking cessation dashboard, and I get a quick visual summary at the top. I can see most patients have reported no tobacco use, and then about the equal number have reported tobacco use in the last 7 days, active smokers. and a handful, about the same number as active smokers. We have former smokers who have quit. And within those who report tobacco use in the last 7 days, about 2/3 are shaded orange, which indicates they're not ready to quit. 47 patients have said they're not ready to quit. That's about 2/3, and about 1/3 are shaded this pink color, which means they are ready to quit. Moving on to the right-hand side, we can see that looking at those who are ready to quit, the overwhelming majority of them are shaded orange, which means they have had a smoking cessation follow-up visit, so that's good. A small number shaded blue do not. And we also see that among those who are not ready to quit, there were actually a handful that had a smoking cessation visit anyways, about 5 of them out of 50. So not bad considering they said they were not ready to quit. I can get more detailed data, raw data on smoking cessation by going to my smoking data tab. In the right-hand side, I have filters for a specific date range or specific provider types that we want included in this summary. But just looking at my smoking status, tobacco use in the last 7 days, we have 32 patients reporting that. If I expand smoking status, we can see that among those who are reporting tobacco use in the last 7 days, all of them received advice to quit. Yes, that's the only value we have in there. If we keep expanding, I can click on the plus on top of advice to quit. We can see that 19 reported they are ready to quit, and 47 have reported that they're not ready to quit. And again, I can keep expanding. And now we can see that among those who are ready to quit, 15 of those clients have a smoking cessation visit done, and 4 of them do not. So these are some pretty useful dashboards and analytics. There's all kinds of other things you could put in here. For example, I've got a quick summary of appointments by status, no-showed versus arrived. I'm getting about 75% of my appointments result in a visit, about 25% the pink area result in a no-show, and there's all kinds of other things you can put in here. Going back to my OHRS graphic summary, I'll just point out that this ended in Q3 2016. That's the last bit of data we have, is the third quarter of the 15-16 fiscal year. What I'll do next is I'll upload fresh data and we can refresh this. So to upload fresh data for Q4, I'll just use one of the tabs at the top of the screen. That brings me to this page where I can drag and drop raw data, spreadsheet files into the portal. So I've got a handful of spreadsheets here that I've downloaded, and I need to turn them into reports in the portal. So I'll just drag and drop and copy them into the database. It might take a couple of minutes to upload them, depending on the amount of data you have, but you get a status here on the screen telling you whether they're ready or not. Once the files are ready, I'll go back to my dashboard, and you can see it's still only showing up until Q3, but there's a refresh button at the bottom. I'll press that, and now I have data all the way until the end of Q4. I've got a complete fiscal year. And if I go back to my staff targets to actuals, we can see that all of our staff members are now exceeding their targets for individual service events. You can see the blue line that represents the number of encounters they actually did. For all of them is exceeding the black line that represents their targets. So that's really good. For 266, our group encounters, if you do those at your clinic, in this case, they're still below target, so that's something we'll have to deal with. But that's good news that for all of our individual service events, everyone is now exceeding their target. It's worth mentioning this system and this approach is super flexible and super customizable. So, for example, if there's a piece of data other than OHRS, appointments, and smoking cessation that you wanted to upload to the system, it would be very fast and very simple to add that additional data to the system. It's also helpful that this system doesn't force you to use specific codes or specific terms in your electronic medical record system. So end users of your EMR can use the codes that they're used to using, can use the drop-down values and the words that they're used to using, and this system will convert those into a consistent set of codes and nomenclature that's used in your report. So you won't have to retrain your staff on data entry to take advantage of this system. So in the next step, I'll take a deep dive into how the upload process works and how it can be customized. I'll go back to our upload page, and this part is going to be a little bit more detailed. It's really designed for the data enthusiasts, so if you don't want to see the back end of how this system works, you can sign off now, but if you do want to see how this system works, I'll explain it now. When we drag and drop a file in here, the system checks to see if there's an existing table in the database. If it matches, it uploads the data into that table. So we don't have to rewrite code every single time we want to add an additional type of data. So let me show you what that looks like. I have a file here called distance driven. It's completely different from anything we've seen so far. It contains columns for staff name, Joe, Jane, and Bob, and it contains a column for the numbers of kilometers they drove, 2, 23, and 10. But this is a brand new type of data that we're going to add to the system. So I'll flip over to my server, and now I can create a table to store this information. So I've got my create table command lined up, and I'll just run it. Now, jumping back to the portal, all I have to do is drag and drop that distance traveled spreadsheet into the portal, and it will upload right into that table we created. You can see it's processed successfully. So if I wanted to build a dashboard off this or a report, I'll jump into my report builder, Tableau. I'll go to data source. I'll add a new data source for the file we just created. I'll choose distance driven. From this, from this workbook, I'll create a new worksheet. And I'll include staff member and kilometers traveled. The last step would just be to upload this report into the portal. I've got a few options and settings I can change here. For this demonstration, I won't bother. I'll just hit publish. Once that's done, I can return to the portal. And now, on my list of reports, you can see I've got one at the very end that displays the data for our new data source. So there you go. In only a matter of minutes, we were able to take a brand new data source that we don't have in the reporting tool. We were able to add it to our data model, upload data into that source, and quickly generate an informative report based on it, and it's available on the portal for us to share with our colleagues.